Everybody, my name is Abby. Welcome to the video. You've seen the title, you've seen that damn thumbnail. You know that there's some leaks in here or data mine or whatever you want to call it. Now, to be fair, take this with a massive pinch of salt. But the person that has been leaking these patch notes for a while now has been pretty much 99 or 90% of the time he's been correct. So he's now posted this on the Overwatch 2 subreddit, and these are some of the perk changes coming to the game. And dare I say that, like, assuming that this is true, some of these are actually ridiculous, and the power creep in the game just gets worse and worse as we go on. Now, I'm not going to read his main overview, because he kind of crashes out and like sends indirect messages to other data miners and leakers, like that he's reputable and everything. And not going to lie, the brother kind of went out the way. Not only did he leak the patch notes for the perk changes, he leaked the entire perk tree for stadiums for credibility, which is insane. So anyways, I'm going to link the Reddit down below somewhere in the comments or something. If I forget, please just let me know in the comments. But I'm going to cover it in the video. So on your screen right now, boom, we're going to be starting with the perk changes. So starting us off, we got Mercy's changes. Now, you guys know Mercy's not really in the best spot she's ever been. She's very bad. She's arguably, you could even argue she's probably one of the worst characters in the game right now. Maybe she's competing with Life Fever for that spot. I would say she's probably a little bit better than Life Fever, although again, like I said, that can be debated. She's not that bad in 6v6, surprisingly, and that's for a plethora of reasons, but like not in 5v5. 5v5 Mercy is really bad. So that does really want to help her. First of all, we're starting off with the changes. So she's actually going to be losing the angelic recovery, which was a very situational perk. So that perk is Mercy receives 15 healing per second while the Caduceus staff is attached to specifically a full health ally. This never came up. I play a bunch of Mercy myself. I know people that play Mercy, and this sounds really good on paper, but in practice this was pretty much useless because it was so situational. It was only like if you were playing Fire Mercy and they shot you first, did this like give you the bare minimum help that you needed, and it was whatever, right? So now they've actually changed the perk from angelic recovery to angelic resurrection. So when Mercy is using her res, when she's casting res, she will gain 100 over health. I think this is much better, but my problem with this perk is that there is a window where we can punish Mercy, and now that window is a little bit smaller. So my little issue with perks has always been, like, are perks meant to power creep the game? And if so, like, why do we pick and choose who gets to get power crept? Or are perks meant to be like quality of life or small gameplay changes to help the character feel better? Because this is an outright buff. Like, now against like low elo or even mid elo lobbies, you are almost guaranteed to get that res off. Like, the 100 overhealth is amazing, right? Pair that with like a Zarya bubble that comes your way, especially since Zarya is not being nerfed. Like, Mercy might actually have a spot where she can kind of get away with doing some of this shit. So next thing we have is Flash Heal. Now, Flash Heal is being reworked. So before, the way Flash Heal worked says over here, the Resurrect can be used on Caduceus staffs as active target to restore 150 health, but in doing so you will incur a 15-second cooldown. Now, Flash Heal has been reworked to where Flash Heal can be used on the Caduceus staffs as active target to restore 50 health, and then it will do triple the healing on allies with less than 50% HP, which is actually very good. This is to give her some burst healing and hopefully make her feel better. In my opinion, for God's sake, Blizzard, do not give her that 15-second cooldown. That's ridiculous, right? And even if you give her like Flash Heal as a 15-second cooldown, make it so that she doesn't share it with Res, because it makes her feel so bad. It makes her feel so weird. So that's just my opinion on Mercy. I kind of feel bad. Like, everybody's characters should be in a spot where they're at least somewhat viable, unless they're so game breaking that they're out of this world, or they tiptoe around like a certain philosophy for the game, which we'll get to in a little bit. So I think Mercy is one of those characters where, yes, she can be annoying, but she's really not that broken. Damage boost is a completely different story and a completely different topic for a different video. So before you pull out the Fitchbox, guys, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it in the future. Sombra. Now, these are a little bit concerning, depending on which perspective you want to look at it from. Here's my blistering hot take about Sombra. I've been playing a lot of Sombra in Overwatch 2 specifically. Didn't play her that much in Overwatch 1. Didn't like her gameplay loop back then. That's just my opinion. But I did like what she is becoming now. And, I will say that she has some perks that just weren't good. But definitely there were some perks that were good, that once you got the hang of them, man, you could do some crazy shit, right? So starting us off, stack overflow is getting removed. So this is basically the hack silence duration is being increased by 100%. But the range on the hack was decreased by 15% as a compensation. Now it's replaced by something called hidden upload. Hack can be used while invisible, and then the successful hacks will increase your invisibility by 2 seconds. I do not like this perk at all. This is a buff to Sombra's skill floor, and the worst part is back in the day, like, you knew how to tell the difference between good and bad Sombra players because of the way that they maximize their uptime. What I don't like about this change is, number one, stack overflow was desperately needed with how server admin level Doomfist and Wrecking Ball were becoming. And number two, like, she was like the only outright counter that could really slow those characters down, and now that is gone, right? And number two, the hacking in invis and then like staying in invis for even longer, this will just discourage the active playstyle that they were trying to make like low elo players adapt into. And now you'll just have Sombras that will just stay in invis and run away with Translocator, stay in invis, run away with Translocator. I hate that type of Sombra playstyle, and the problem with hidden upload is it's feeding into that. So a little bit disappointed that Blizzard fed into this direction, and I think stack overflow was a necessary evil, and now with it not being in the game, and assuming that the rest of the patch, like this is the only patch and there's no other patch, Wrecking Ball and Doomfist are gonna take over like crazy. They're gonna take over like crazy. So a little bit disappointed with this first set of changes. I know somebody out there is probably really happy about this. You know what? I'm happy for you if it fits your Sombra playstyle. I adapted to the Overwatch 2 Sombra, specifically like the way that they've reworked her. And I like this version of Sombra. I think she's a necessary evil for certain characters, but it is what it is. Moving on over to the next perk. So viral efficacy is gone. So viral efficacy was virus's cooldown got reduced by 3 seconds when an enemy affected by virus was eliminated. And instead, we have a new perk called viral replication that hitting a hacked enemy with virus will spread the virus around to enemies within 8 meters. Now, the thing is, in theory, this is a good perk, but 8 meters is very small. This is only really going to be good against, like, brawl comps that are like very grouped up together and don't necessarily want to spread around too much. So having that extra like damage over time just like spread out, I don't like it because it's free value, and anytime perks kind of give you free value, it's like viral efficacy. At least you have to put in the effort. Like you have to kill somebody with the combo, you got virus back faster, and you could keep that momentum flowing. Then you could keep popping off. With viral replication, it's like that's it. I just like virus the enemy Ryan, and like two people behind him just randomly get virused and they're taking damage over time. And that means a lot in a team fight because then if you're having like a Ryan Ram brawl or your Ramatra can just like walk in and with that extra damage over time, you translocate up, hack somebody, and just it's a nightmare, right? So I personally really like viral efficacy and I also really like stack overflow. But what I don't like is and this is going to be a blistering hot take, viral efficacy and stack overflow were actually the good perks. And I think they know this, and they're trying to nerf those perks because everybody was building viral efficacy and stack overflow. Nobody was using the healing thing because that thing has way too many bugs and problems when you use it. And the other perk that I think is like if you use Translocator, you'll heal yourself. Guys, that perk is useless. When you enter Invis, you're going to be fine. You will survive 90% of the time and you'll enter self-healing or you'll be close to a health pack anyway. And like that perk is useless. Like, please take my word. You were always building viral efficacy and stack overflow in order to slow down the game and especially to punish like characters like, Doomfist and Wrecking Ball. And again, my I'm sure there's somebody out there who's like, Abby, you don't see the vision with these new changes. And you might be right. Maybe I don't see the vision with the changes, but like I'm specifically considering the fact that Doom and Ball are in a position right now where they're literally about to become server admin. And I don't like that. And I am somebody with almost 1,000 hours on Doom. He's my second most played character now. And I love Doomfist, but I don't love how Doomfist has become the most free value character in the game. He has the worst playstyle in the game. You guys know, everybody that has played DPS Doom and looks at the current state of Tank Doom, nobody likes Tank Doom. Because he's literally just an EMP bot, like he empowered punch bot. Sorry, we call him imp bot. But so you just get empowered punch, you get value, and you rinse and repeat. It's very boring. But the problem is that it works and it's very, very strong. So Sombra to me was like, okay, that's one thing that can keep that character in check. And then on the side, like Wrecking Ball has gotten nothing in these past 2 seasons but buffs. And he's also in a position that when he takes over a game, there's nothing you can do about it. There's no answers in the game. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna regret these Sombra changes. I'm really not a fan of it at all. Again, hidden upload. My take here is this is feeding into the wrong playstyle for what we were trying to move away from. And then viral replication, it's nice, but why didn't viral replication, I believe this is a minor perk, so why didn't it take out the one that just heals Sombra? Like, that's what's stupid to me, right? Like, I would have preferred, like, if we could choose between viral efficacy and viral replication rather than, oh, well, let's just remove the efficacy and give her the viral replication. So, like, in the more grouped up comms, you would want to have, like, the virus spreading out. And then against, like, maybe, like, poke comms that are taking off angles and everything, viral efficacy would be better because you could then use it to take out one target, let's say the Mercy, and then, like, get the virus back faster and then take out the, the Ash or the Soldier that was there, like, in that off angle with her. But now you don't get that, like, choice, because now when you use virus, the other virus just spreads anyway, so you don't get, like, that benefit. And then again, number two, the most important and final thing before I move on to the next character, is the fact that you don't have the agency, and you have to go through that maximum cooldown. So even if that one virus messed up, you're in the downtime period where you don't have your combo, and when you're dueling the next character, you're in a bit of a position where you're kind of screwed. So like I said, not a fan of the Sombra changes. Again, I know there'll be some people out there that'll be a big fan of it, and that's perfectly fine. More power to you. But what I liked about Sombra and what I saw her as and what she was doing, that is about to be lost from the game. And in my opinion, I think that's a very big problem. More on that in the actual, hopefully the patch that we get. So next character we got is D.Va. Now, D.Va is getting interesting changes. Number one, ejection shoot is being changed. So this is being removed. Ejection granted her 75 temporary overhealth. They're changing this to something called booster extension. Now, this is potentially very scary. So hitting an enemy with your boosters will increase the duration by 0.5%, 0.5 seconds, excuse me. It doesn't sound that bad on paper, but this allows her to do some crazy things. We had something like this in a previous patch. I can't remember exactly which patch it was. Maybe was it year 1 or year 2? We had it in, like, one of the funny game modes, an April Fool's game mode or something. I can't remember. We had something like this, and it was very strong. So this actually might be very good. We might be underestimating this one a little bit, especially if she's gonna be, like, if you want to play her like a very ground dive play style, like, she'll be zooming all over the place. And again, like I said, without Sombra, with all these tanks that can just run around the place and server admin lobby, D.Va is already very strong. So I'm just saying. Okay, so she's losing Bunny Stomp. Bunny Stomp was the 𝐒𝐈𝐊 damage radius was increased by 50%, and she's gaining Bunny Power. Bunny Power will give her the 75 temporary overhealth, and the 𝐒𝐈𝐊 damage radius is increased by 50%. So they're kind of, if I'm not wrong, they're combining two perks into one. So it's just like, okay, like, when she leaves the mech, she can survive a little bit more, and, like, is given a zone where she can, like, safely come back into the tank from. So again, it's free value perk. What is there to say? The window to punishing her is definitely going to be a little bit more risky now, unless you play specific characters. So moving on to the next one, we have Mei. Now, this is the most controversial one in here, and this is why, in my opinion, like, this is what I didn't want with the perks in Overwatch 2. I'm not going to waste your time. Mei's perks are on your screen now. She is losing the Chilling Reach, which basically gave her the laser beam on her primary fire, and instead she is getting her deep freeze. This is ridiculous. She's gotten her freeze back. Continuously hitting enemies with the primary fire will freeze them for a short time. It doesn't matter even if it's 0.5 seconds of freeze. That momentum shutdown, when you shut down momentum in a game, in a hero shooter, if you play Rivals, if you play Overwatch, if you've played Paladins, you know that as long as a CC happens and you lose momentum, you are screwed, especially if you're in the middle of a fight with somebody else. And the fact that they're bringing this back for me is ridiculous, because now I ask the question, why did we ever go to 5v5? Why did we go to 5v5? Everything we said, the reasons we're going to 5v5, we have walked them back in the past 2 years, in the past 1 year. Cassidy's got it in his flashbang back. Mei's got it in the freeze back. What was the point of going to 5v5? Everything that worked in 6v6 is somehow, one way or the other, back in 5v5. And I'm sorry, like I've tried to give 5v5 a chance, and there was a point where I thought 5v5 was the better format, and then they made super tanks, and then they did all this, like, hypocritical changes, and now we're in the spot that we are in. So my thing is, if we're just gonna slowly walk back, like, all the things that the Jeff Kaplan team made work, and they realized that, yeah, these characters need these things, at this point you might as well just go back to 6v6. Anyways, Mei's other perk change is more of a nerf because it was a bit too strong. Anybody who played May would know this. Is her secondary fire hits were slowing enemies by 15% for 1.5 seconds, and you could stack that up to 30%. Now the secondary fire hits will slow enemies by 20% for 1.5. So it's a locked duration and it's a bit in between, right? So technically it's kind of a net buff. But it's also a net nerf since you lose the maximum, like, 30%. 30% slow is very, very strong, right? So that is something to consider. So moving on to the next character. This is where things get even worse, and it's Juno. Juno has been on the receiving end for a lot of different nerfs that, in my opinion, she doesn't deserve. I feel like a lot of people just don't still fundamentally realize why Juno is broken. And it goes back to this one particular change that happened when she came to life. And that was they giga-buffed her pulsar torpedoes. If you don't understand how her pulsar torpedoes work, they're a burst, damage, and healing. And then there's a healing over time on them that comes afterwards. By the way, I didn't know that until recently either. I thought the burst healing was more than enough to make her meta. So now she has lost the hyper boost perk that while using glide boost, and passing through the hyper ring, it will push her forward. So that was ridiculous survivability if you knew how to use it. Instead, what they've done, they've leaned into a little bit more of her aggressive playstyle with Locked On, which is the new perk, where you reduce the cooldown of your pulsar torpedoes by 1.5 seconds for every enemy that has been hit. In total, if you hit 5 people, your pulsar torpedoes that are on a 10-second cooldown will go all the way down to 3 seconds. And this is really not that hard to do. Regardless, this is a huge buff to Juno's uptime. And again, this is one of those things where it's like, why are we making her gameplay revolve around pulsar torpedoes? Her left click is still an aim-based ability, like, you have to aim with it and everything like that. Why don't we center her gameplay around her gunplay and her movement and reward her skill and tone it down where it needs to be toned down? Why do we need to feed into, well, the pulsar torpedoes that, like, everybody doesn't like to play against, and that is clearly the strongest point of her kit? That is what we want to be the strength of Juno. That's just annoying. I'm not a fan of this change at all. It's going to be fun to use because, of course, like, this is something that's ridiculously broken. But what can you do? The next perk is called Reboots, and they've removed the old version of it, increased the duration of glide boost by 25%, and resets the double jump upon activation. Now activating your glide boost boots will reset your double jump. So they've removed the increased duration. They've probably realized that Juno was surviving way too much with her perks, and her deaths might have gone down. So this is definitely to change up the playstyle a little bit. So again, I feel really bad for Juno players because, again, their character just kind of gets made a little bit clunkier, and anything that was interesting on the character is being toned down, and they're feeding into this extremely, dare I say, brain dead playstyle with the pulsar torpedoes, and it's getting really irritating to see them go down this direction with Juno. I do not agree with it. I think Juno is actually a very interesting character, and they just repeatedly take her down this direction of making her even more boring. This is ridiculous, Blizzard. I hope you do better. Anyways, Roadhog, this is where things get really weird, guys. Roadhog is where things get really weird. On your screen now, Roadhog changes. So Roadhog Resourceful Pen is a new perk, and he's losing the Hawk Toss. Yes, he's losing the one perk that actually helped him become viable. So Hawk Toss, Pigpen's throw range is increased by 50%, and the damage was increased by 25%. Once you understood how to use this version of Pigpen, it was actually really good. It really helped with the combos. But now this is a little bit ridiculous. Now we have the new perk Resourceful Pen, that when Pigpen is triggered, it will refill 50% of the take a breather resource, which can now overfill. So Hog can become very tanky. And my question is this something that Hog needed? Like, do we want to give Hog more survivability, or like, what do we want to do? Do we want to make Hog like this, like, walking bloat, like, who just, like, absorbs all the damage and CC and whatever? Because this is what that feeds into, while the other side fed into just at least allowing him to do his combo so he could be viable. So I don't know how to feel about this. I do play a bit of Roadhog myself, but I'm going to need some Roadhog specialists to tell me, like, how do you feel about Resourceful Pen? Personally, I think Hawk Toss was still better, and this is just a wrong direction to take Roadhog, in my opinion, especially since they buffed the Take a Breather, the previous hotfix. So That's just my opinion on it. Moving on over, Reinhardt is losing Crusader's Resolve and he's getting Crusader's Fury. Now, if you don't know what Resolve was, it was using the barrier field. Your passive HP regen would trigger 75% sooner, although honestly you could barely feel this. And Crusader's Fury was that you could refund, now this is the new one, you refund a charge of Fire Strike when you stun an enemy and you can overfill up to 3. Now, basically this means if you use Earth Shatter, you have 3 Fire Strikes. This is a ridiculous buff to Reinhardt. This is, wow, this is huge for Reinhardt. And you're almost always taking this. I assume this is a major perk. If this is somehow not a major perk, then wow, Reinhardt, when he's Earth Shattering now, he should 100% be securing at least 2 kills, because this is wow. Okay, especially since he still has the massive buff on Earth Shatter, where it has the massive range, and you know, you can one-shot people at close range and all that shit. Like, it's just ridiculous how good Ryan is. I'm sick and tired of being told by people that, oh, Ryan is bad. No, Ryan is not bad. You are bad. Ryan is actually good. Stop trying to play Ryan on Watchpoint Gibraltar and shit like that, and you will see how good Ryan is. Actual idiots, bro, in the comments, like, thinking Ryan is bad. I play Ryan a lot. I have over 950 hours on Ryan. Anyways, Cassidy. Alright, so Cassidy is losing past noon, you know, the one perk that was actually good, which was where Deadeye would refund 40% of the ult if it expires. Now he's getting this new one called Evening the Odds, where he will regen 20 HP a second for every enemy that gets targeted by Deadeye. I really don't know how to feel about this. I liked past noon a lot, because again, uptime and things like that. But it's like, okay, you get to regen 20 health a second for every enemy that's being targeted by Deadeye. Of course, this means that if Cassidy is in Deadeye, and people are trying to shoot him and burst him down, this should help him maintain a little bit of uptime, and helps mitigate like the risk that comes with it. I'm a bit 50-50 on it. I'm like, okay, this is one of those things where I want to play with it to see how it feels. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. It's just one of those weird ones, right? You know, this final change is where, if you thought the May change wasn't bad, this is where things get ridiculous. Tracer is losing her quantum entanglement's previous version, and she's getting a new quantum entanglement. If you don't know, the previous version of quantum entanglement was recall will grant you 50 over health that decays over time. Now, quantum entanglement will give you back 50 over health and 20 ammo that will decay over time. Now, I know people say that the other perk with the extra blinks and everything is good, but remember, we have 8 years worth of Tracer players that didn't have those blinks and they made Tracer work. You are giving Tracer back her breakpoint and her ability to one-clip people. So after she does her tickling and this and that, and she recalls, she gets the overheal to commit into more aggressive plays, gets the extra 20 ammo. Any good Tracer player that understands blink resource management is about to farm the shit out of you. This is a ridiculous buff to Tracer. This is a ridiculous buff. They brought back her breakpoints without having to buff her damage, of course, and you know, she's a spray character, right? So like, this is crazy, man. She will one-tap a lot of characters now. Granted that it's in a position where she's used her recall, so she's a little bit more vulnerable, but like I said, all the good Tracer players that understand blink management will know how to use this the way that they're meant to and start farming lobbies. So Quantum Entanglement and her other perk for the blink reset, like, these perks are actually competitive now to one another, but I actually think the entanglement perk is a lot scarier than people want to give it credit for. She gets the 50 over health and the 20 ammo. Now, we don't know how fast it decays. I assume it's going to be a little bit slow, but like, usually once you get that extra ammo, you're just going to run it down mid and try to burst down the person you were on, that you were like taking the duel with. So that's it for all the league perks, guys. I don't know how to feel. Personally, I think they're taking the game in a very, 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 very awkward direction. There's a lot of things that they once talked about that that they didn't want to do, or they felt like would have been bad for the game, and now we are watching them come in the forms of perks. And I just think this is a huge question mark, because there are certain characters that are getting like outright giga buffed, and then there's certain characters that if you look at the changes, right, you look at the way, like we talked about Mercy is so quality of life that it's insane. And then you look at the way like Juno gets buffed in this, you look at the way like Tracer and Ryan and like May get buffed in this, and you're just kind of like, how is this even on the same level? Like, we're being so extra careful with a character like Mercy that, oh, okay, let's like be super careful so she doesn't, like, you know, become ultra broken. And then it's like, yeah, you know what, like, I think May can like freeze tanks again and make their life miserable. Yeah, you know what, Juno getting a 3-second cooldown on her pulsar torpedoes potentially sounds nice. Yeah, you know what, like, maybe Ryan being able to do 3-shot people with Fire Strike is going to be very nice to have in Earthshatter. Like, Tracer being able to one clip again sounds really good. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, what are we doing here? My cat's meowing in the background. She needs my attention. So I will be discussing with you guys in the comments down below while I go tend to my little kitten who's calling for her daddy. So guys, with that being said, I will see you in the next video, and most importantly in the comments, because like we gotta discuss this, guys. We gotta discuss this.